Hello, Sixers! Today I want to go over the Battle of New Orleans worksheet. Again, you're supposed to use your Battle of New Orleans reading and answer the questions in complete sentences. I am still surprised that in the fourth marking period we still have students not doing that. Shocking to me. All right, again, if a question has two parts, make sure you answer both parts. So, question number one, based on what we've learned, why do you think the British felt it was important to take New Orleans? Well, when we talked about uh, our acquisition of the Louisiana Territory, um, the first thing we really wanted to try to get was New Orleans. Why? Because it was our most important port west of the Appalachian Mountains. All right, remember, Western farmers relied on the Mississippi River to move their goods east and to Europe. It was very, very expensive to move goods on land across the Appalachians, right? Going downriver out into the Gulf of Mexico and then up the East Coast or over to Europe was a lot less expensive. New Orleans sits obviously very close to the mouth of the Mississippi River. Who was the leader of the American forces in New Orleans? That was General Andrew Jackson, right? We're going to learn a whole bunch more about over the next 2 weeks. Jackson was the general leading American forces. In addition to African Americans and pirates, not mentioned in the reading, who else fought for Jackson? Oh no, I made a mistake. Okay. Hello, 1776ers. Today we're going to talk about the Battle of New Orleans. Your instructions were to use the Battle of New Orleans reading and answer the following questions in complete sentences. We are finishing up the fourth marking period, and yet I still have students that are having difficulty with this. All right, so make sure you do it. If a question has two parts, make sure you're answering both parts. Here we go. Number one, based on what we've learned, why do you think the British felt it was important to take New Orleans? All right, so for this one, you hopefully thought back to when we made the Louisiana Purchase, and prior to purchasing all that territory in Louisiana, right, we were actually just trying to buy New Orleans. Why? Because it was really our most important port west of the Appalachian Mountains. Western farmers relied on the Mississippi River to move their goods east and to Europe. All right, so it was extremely expensive to move their goods across the Appalachian Mountains, and a lot less expensive to float them down the Mississippi River, out into the Gulf of Mexico, and then either up the East Coast or across to Europe. And as you know, New Orleans sits close to the mouth of the Mississippi River. Who was the leader of the American forces in New Orleans? Some people lost a half point here. They simply just wrote Andrew Jackson, but it was the right answer, but complete sentences. Andrew Jackson was the general leading the American forces. Number three, in addition to African Americans and pirates not mentioned in the reading, who else fought for Jackson in New Orleans? Jackson did have militia with him and a bunch of sharpshooters, as well as Native Americans from the Choctaw tribe, which was very interesting because he had actually fought them before. They were former enemies of his. Now they were actually teaming up to fight the British. Number four, what was the outcome of the battle? The U.S. kicked some butt. All right, we won. 7,500 British troops marched into battle confidently. The Americans were in trenches, and sharpshooters fired on the British as they got close. So, if you can imagine it, the British were coming on a very narrow strait of land, and on top of that, it was wide open. Meanwhile, the Americans were entrenched, and basically they were completely covered, and so these British were basically in this narrow line coming forward, and the American sharpshooters were just picking them off. The British attacked again and again. They ended up having 2,000 soldiers either killed or wounded, while the U.S. only had 7 soldiers killed. Pretty unheard of in these battles. So what was the major result of the Battle of New Orleans, and what was strange about it? Obviously, this was a huge victory for the Americans. National pride surged when they heard about this victory, and many people thought the battle actually ended the War of 1812. Jackson became an American hero, and as we know now, he will eventually become president. Interestingly, though, here's the strange part. The war had actually ended when the Treaty of Ghent was signed in Belgium 2 weeks before the battle. So for all those people who were sitting there just like, yay, Jackson won the war for us, Not really the case. The war had actually already been over. All right, as usual, make sure you look at my answers, make sure you look at your answers, and your answer should be similar to my answers. Don't have to be exact, but at least be in the ballpark, and you will be in good shape. Have a great day.